When you're designing space, the main thing to keep in mind, or one of the main things to keep in mind, is how that space will be used and how you combine your forms, your colors, your textures, the size of the space, what you put in that space is all going to go into the response of the space to the usability of the space. And you have to kind of put it all together. Sometimes we design a space around a piece, like maybe a client will have something that they want everything else to relate to, and that will often happen, and that's not a problem. You just relate everything accordingly and make it work in the space. And if it needs to be the focal point, then you create the arrangement, you create the color scheme, you do the build outs, whatever is necessary to make that thing happen. So everything, including the user experience, has to work together. So we're designing aesthetically, making aesthetic choices to support the functionality and the use of the space. The enjoyment of the space actually is part of the functionality. If we have a bedroom space like this, we want the users to relax and enjoy. So depending upon what they've asked for, and depending upon, obviously, this has got some interesting architectural lines to it, we are going to create a space that is going to be a sanctuary, a place of rest, a place of quietness and perhaps solitude, a place of retreat for them. And so we're going to consider color, we're going to consider texture, we're going to consider rhythms, forms, and things like that. Going back to the idea of, shall we say, manipulating, which is in a way perhaps not the best word to use, but that's basically what we're doing. We are imposing a certain way of use, or a certain thing, a certain process, a certain path of travel on any user of any space. And the user cannot feel manipulated or controlled by that. In a space such as this, obviously it looks like we have some alcoves and things like that. We have some doorways out to the patio or lanai or whatever's out here. And these pieces are all movable. So although you might set something up and leave the design that way and photograph it and so forth, the user might decide to pull things back, to change how things are arranged and so forth. And so things will not stay the same from point A to point B in any space that's designed, because the people who use it will impose their own way of using it. So you start out at least manipulating the user, and then they will either go along with that, or they might over time decide to change things. So again, keep in mind, the client for this space would have a very different need to be addressed than the client of the previous space we just looked at. This obviously is young, fun, beachy, surfy, and so forth. Very different idea. The use of this room is going to be very different than the use of the previous room that we were looking at. When we design for a client, whether they are a residential or a commercial client, we're going to be looking at the needs. There's a style, there's an ambiance, there's a trend, there are cultural issues that might have to happen, there might be economic restraints, budgets, there might be basic mobility constraints, such as with accessibility and that sort of thing. They might be into feng shui, and therefore you would need to conform to a religious idea in terms of your design. And so you need to take everything into consideration that the client is asking for. And that means you need to ask a lot of questions, because a client's not going to know to tell you everything. And so if any question comes up in your mind, definitely ask it, and then go from there. Asking questions will enable you to acquire information, and the more information you have, the better design solution you'll be able to come up with. In other words, you'll be able to satisfy the client's needs more directly than if you don't ask questions and just make assumptions. And in a room, in a space of any sort, even in an exterior landscape, walking through a mall, dealing with architecture, if you go to the Getty Center or the Getty Villa, there are spatial relationships that you deal with, and they're different from each other. But when you're in a space, you don't take in the entire space all at once. You have to change position, you have to turn around. You cannot see behind you when you're looking in front of you. And so every point of view in every space, or looking at any object, is going to change how that object's perceived. It's the idea of two sides to the same coin. You see, if you're looking at one side, you're not seeing the other side, and the other side's going to be different than the front side, or the flip side, whatever you want to call it. And so you have to rotate the form to see the whole thing. So when we walk into a space, we cannot see it all at once. And every time we move to see something new, or to see it from a different point of view, we are actually changing the design. And we can take 50 photographs of the same space and from different points of view, and the photographs would each be different. So the person who's in the space will be relating to it differently depending upon their position within the space. Also depending upon their position and how they're using the space and their overall response, space can affect mood. If a person is in a room where they basically are not real comfortable with the style, or there's no comfortable place to sit down, they're not going to enjoy it as much as they would another kind of space. So say you're going to the dentist, and say you don't like going to the dentist because generally it's not a real comfortable experience for you. You're going to go in, no matter how comfortable the waiting room is and how nicely decorated the actual clinical rooms are there, you're not going to like the space at all, because you are predisposed to not be comfortable with the reason for the space existing, no matter how comfortable the space is actually created to be. So there is going to be a disposition or a mood that goes on that will predispose somebody to dislike something. That said, if you recall our discussion about the buildings or the spaces that you liked and the reasons you like them, a lot of you were talking about the idea of a space causing you to feel good, kind of lifting your spirit, making you happy, making you relaxed, and things like that. So space, the relationships, the design of the space, the things that you put into the space, the colors, the textures, the furnishings, the features, the accessories, can literally change somebody's mood. It can take you from being kind of dour and kind of sad and morose into happy and lively and things like that. So as a designer, you have this kind of ability to create, to basically lift the spirit or go the other direction depending upon your intention. We look at two photographs of the same space. You can see that just by shifting things around, this is kind of a view in one direction, this is a view in an analogous direction. So say that this is east, this might be south. The bathtub is now over here, the shower that's here is you know, we're seeing it from this point of view coming in. So now we're seeing the counter here. But look how different the room arrangement is. So we do have to have multiple views in order to fully understand a space. Whether we're photographing, whether we're drawing, or whether we're walking into a space, walking through it, or using it, in order to understand the totality of it, we do have to move around and look at things from different sight lines and different points of view. So what do you see going on here? How does this hit you? What spatial concepts do you see going on? And then the overall design solution, the color, the textures, the furnishings, things like that. How do you respond to that? So it's kind of the question of what do you see going on, and then what is it accomplishing to the user or the viewer. We have volumetric modular form, we have linear form, we have volumetric modular form. That's confining space because there's space inside those lampshades. We have delineated space. We have activated space. We have activated space around the cushions. There's a path of travel here. There's activated space between the coffee table and the love seat. There's activated space over here between the love seat and the windowsills. There's a little cozy nook area, conversational area with two chairs back over here. There's a lot of light coming in. It is a high-key room. Most of the colors are light in value. We have rhythmic striping on the floor covering. We have opposite directionality on the wood flooring. We have casual plushy draping and cushions and slip covers and things like that. We have horizontal striping going up the wall. We have kind of blue-green and red-orange, so we have a complementary concept there. We have low-value, high-luminance neutrals for the most part. And we have stuff of life, you know, books and, you know, so forth. So psychologically, this looks like a comfortable room to sit and read, to sit and relax, to sit and converse. It's a pleasant room. It's got some views, so the prospect is actually taking your eye out of the room outside, and hopefully there's something nice to look at out there. It's also bringing a lot of light from the exterior to the interior, which a lot of people like. And so it's kind of not a dark cozy, but a lightweight cozy. You feel like it's, you know, Cape Cod, you're on vacation, you're at the beach in Laguna Niguel, you know, something like that. This is not where you're going to sit and do a lot of office work or be highly productive at something. This is more a retreat, a place of relaxation.